There is a sequence happening in your home every morning that you have stopped noticing. The coffee, the leash, the bowl, and somewhere in that sequence, your nervous system is taking a cue from your dog, and your dog's nervous system is taking a cue from you. Not metaphorically, neurologically. The routine you build together is not just comfort, it is co-regulation, and what it is regulating is you. If you want to understand what your dog is really telling you, you are in the right place. Watch a dog in a house where mornings follow a pattern. The moment the alarm goes off, the dog lifts its head. Not because the sound is alarming, it has heard that sound hundreds of times. Because that sound means something is about to happen. The coffee, the shoes, the leash. The dog is not reacting. It is anticipating. And there is a significant difference between those two things. Anticipation requires a mental model of what comes next. It requires the dog to have internalized your sequence, your rhythm, as a kind of map. Researchers have documented that dogs in stable household routines show markedly lower baseline arousal than dogs whose days are unpredictable. They are not just calmer because nothing bad is happening. They are calmer because they know what is coming next. That predictability is neurologically protective. It is the same mechanism that makes a lullaby soothing. Not the melody itself, but the familiarity of the sequence. Your dog is not just used to your morning. Your dog has mapped your morning. Here is what I found when I went looking for the research on this. The routines you build with your dog are not accidental. They are a direct expression of your psychological architecture, your attachment style, your need for predictability, your emotional regulation strategies. In 2013, when I came across the work of Siniscalchi and colleagues published in PLOS One, I had to stop and read it twice. They found that the owner's own attachment profile, anxious, avoidant, or secure, was the single strongest predictor of the bond quality between owner and dog. Not the breed, not the training method, not even how much time they spent together. The owner's internal working model of relationships was being transmitted directly into the bond. What that means is that the morning routine you have with your dog is not something you built for the dog. You built it out of who you are. If you are someone who needs order to feel safe, your dog has a highly structured morning. If you are someone who lives in controlled chaos, your dog has learned to read that chaos and find the signal inside it. The routine is not just a habit. It is a self-portrait. If that just made you see your relationship with your pet in a completely different way, hit subscribe. We explore the science of the human-pet bond every week and what it reveals about us. Number 1. There is a chemical reason your morning feels harder when the routine breaks. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, follows a predictable spike after waking. It rises sharply in the first 30 minutes, a process called the cortisol awakening response, designed to mobilize you for the day. What the research on human-animal interaction suggests, particularly the work reviewed by Beetz and colleagues in 2012, examining the psychophysiological effects of human-animal contact, is that calm, consistent interaction with a dog during that awakening window measurably dampens the cortisol spike. The dog is not just emotionally comforting. The dog is acting as a physiological anchor during the most hormonally volatile 30 minutes of your day. Now here's what that means about you. The owners who benefit most from this effect are not the ones who love their dogs the most. They are the ones whose own cortisol awakening response is highest, people whose baseline stress reactivity runs steep. In other words, if your morning with your dog feels essential rather than optional, that feeling is information. Your nervous system found a co-regulator, and it built a whole routine around keeping that co-regulator close. Number 2. You may have noticed that the moment in your morning when you are most fully present, not planning, not reviewing, not scrolling, is the moment your dog needs something specific from you. The leash clip, the bowl placement, the door signal. These micro-interactions require your full sensory attention, even if only for a few seconds, and that is not nothing. Research on directed attention restoration, The cognitive science behind how humans recover mental focus shows that brief interactions requiring concrete sensory engagement break the rumination cycle more effectively than passive rest. Your dog does not know it is giving you a cognitive reset, but the routine demands your eyes, your hands, and your spatial attention in a way that your inbox does not. When I looked at the data from McLennan's 2023 work in Applied Animal Behavior Science, examining how activity-based interactions affect a dog's attentional focus on the owner, something interesting emerged. The attunement runs both ways. The owner's focused presence during a routine task increases the dog's own attentional engagement. You are not just resetting yourself, you are co-creating a shared attention state. Two nervous systems, briefly synchronized by something as simple as a leash buckle. Number 3. One of the most consistent findings across canine behavior research is one that owners find either reassuring or deeply uncomfortable, depending on where they land. Your dog's personality is partly yours, not in a poetic sense, in a measurable one. When Raymond and colleagues published their 2016 study in Applied Animal Behavior Science, examining canine personality structure through owner questionnaires, one of their clearest signals was that the traits owners described in their dogs, excitability, low autonomy, fear responsiveness, closely tracked traits in the owners themselves. The morning routine is where this mirroring is most visible. A high-energy, hurried owner creates a high-energy morning. The dog learns to match that pace, not because the dog is inherently frantic, but because the owner's internal state sets the environmental tempo. A calm, structured owner creates a calm, structured morning. The dog calibrates to that baseline. This is not about training. You did not sit down and teach your dog to match your energy. Your daily repetition taught them. Every morning for months or years, the same emotional signature preceded the same events. The dog did not learn the sequence, they learned you. Number 4. The way you move in the morning with your dog tells the world something about how you manage your own health psychology. In 2022, Banton and colleagues published a study in PLOS ONE tracking the exercise habits of dog owners and their dogs. Their finding was stark. The owner's own exercise routine was the strongest single predictor of whether the dog got sufficient physical activity, not the breed, not the dog's energy level, not the owner's stated intentions. Owners who exercised consistently had active dogs. Owners who were sedentary had sedentary dogs, regardless of breed. They also found that sedentary owners systematically overestimated their dog's weight as ideal, a psychological buffer that allowed them to avoid confronting the health consequences of inactivity for both. What this tells us is not that sedentary owners are bad owners. It tells us that the morning movement ritual, or its absence, is a window into how the owner relates to their own body and health. If your dog gets a real walk every morning, you are probably someone who believes that movement is non-negotiable. If the walk keeps getting shortened, the question worth asking is not about the dog's needs. It is about whose needs are going unmet. Number 5. There is something happening in the predictable morning sequence that goes deeper than cortisol or exercise. It is building what attachment researchers call a secure base. When Siniscalchi and colleagues found that owner attachment style mirrors the owner-dog bond quality, they were identifying something profound. The dog is not just a pet in your morning routine. The dog has become an attachment object, an anchor point that tells your nervous system the world is stable and navigable. This is not a pathology. Human beings need secure base objects. We are designed for them. The question the research raises is about what happens when the morning routine is disrupted. When you travel for work and the sequence breaks, who suffers more? Studies on separation in owner-dog dyads consistently show that owners with higher attachment anxiety show stronger physiological and psychological stress responses during separation than their dogs do. The dog misses the routine. The owner's identity is briefly destabilized by it. The morning routine with your dog may be doing more psychological heavy lifting for you than you ever consciously assigned it. And your dog, steady in the middle of that routine, may be one of the most reliable sources of secure attachment in your daily life. Number 6. The final thing your morning routine reveals about you is how you think about care itself. In 2021, Van Herwijnen published a detailed analysis in the journal Behavior, examining how the human caregiving system, the internal model people carry about what it means to provide for a dependent, directly shapes owner-dog interaction patterns. The parallels to human parenting styles are not coincidental. Authoritative caregivers, warm, structured, consistent, produce dogs with lower behavioral problems and stronger social confidence. Permissive caregivers, high ones, low structure, produce dogs with higher anxiety and lower impulse regulation. Authoritarian caregivers, high structure, lower warmth, produce dogs that comply but disengage. The morning routine is the caregiving blueprint made visible. How long is the sequence? Does the dog have to wait before the bowl goes down, or is it given the moment it asks? Does the dog walk beside you or lead the walk? Does the morning end with a clear departure cue, or does it dissolve into prolonged goodbyes? None of these things are right or wrong, but they are not arbitrary either. They are the caregiving philosophy you developed long before you had a dog, expressed in a sequence that plays out every single morning without you ever examining it. So what do you do with all of this? Not feel guilty about it. That is the wrong move, and it will not help your dog. What you do is something much more useful. You get curious about the routine you have already built. Run it in your mind right now. What is the first thing that happens? Who initiates it? You or the dog? Is there a clear sequence, or is it improvisational? Does the morning end with a clean departure, or with a lingering? And here is the real question underneath all of those. Which parts of that routine are for the dog, and which parts are for you? Because the answer is almost never entirely one or the other. The most honest version of an owner-dog morning is one where both needs are being met simultaneously. The dog's need for predictability and safe attachment, and the owner's need for something that grounds them before the day begins. That dual function is not a weakness. It is why the bond works. The researchers who study owner-dog interactions keep finding the same thing. The healthiest relationships are not the ones where the owner treats the dog like a person, or the ones where the owner treats the dog like an object. They are the ones where the owner treats the relationship like what it is, a real, mutual, co-regulating bond that makes both partners function better. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off and your dog lifts its head before you do, you will know what is actually happening. Two nervous systems, calibrated to each other across months and years of shared mornings, recognizing the beginning of their sequence. Your dog did not learn your routine. Your dog learned you. The sequence is just the shape that learning took. And you, whether you knew it or not, learned something too. That there is a small, warm, entirely predictable creature in your life who has made mornings survivable in a way nothing else quite managed to. That is not nothing. That is neuroscience and attachment and years of quiet devotion, dressed up as a bowl and a leash and a cup of coffee. Now that you know your morning routine with your dog is not just habit, but a live neurological co-regulation loop built from your own attachment architecture. When did you last notice the sequence itself? And what does it tell you about what you actually need to feel safe at the start of a day? Let us know in the comments. New episodes drop every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Make sure you are subscribed to catch the next one. Until then, decode your dog, decode yourself.